on to the One Africa TV's WhatsApp on 081 200 6659 or send an SMS to 555. One Africa TV, it just gets better.
Try now 7 on page 12. So let's just mark the final one there now. Try now 7 on page 12. That was yesterday's classwork. That's where we're going to start then. Is it number C? Before the air conditioner is turned on, the temperature of a room is 34. Find the temperature if it decreases by 35% after the air conditioner is turned on. And I told you, there are two ways. We can either add or subtract the percentage, or we get the value and then you do the subtraction on that one. One of the two ways. 22.1 degrees. And then number D then, at the beginning of a particular year, a factory had 600 workers. How many remains at the end if 9% left? So Mia, it will then be 9% of the 600, and the answer, 546. 546. Okay, so now we're marking try now 8. So we're marking try now 8 now. A damaged coat cost 180 when new, is sold for 100. What is the percentage loss? Now people, this kind of question is often answered wrongly. Because the formula that we have to use here is profit or loss on the cost price times 100 over 1. But the problem is you never calculate the profit or loss. You just put the two numbers on top of each other. That's the mistake that the learners make. I first need to find that profit and loss. And because they say a percentage increase, that's why we times with 100. And then it's also very important to put it on the original quantity. That's very, very important. So this one is now 80. That is the loss that we have there over what was the original cost. So it's not always the biggest one that you will use, but it must be the original price that we are using then there. And what is this percentage increase? 44%. So press your calculator again so that you make sure you get the correct answer. They say to 1 decimal place, so we must adhere to that. Number 2, during the first 5 weeks of his life, the weight of a baby increases. What is the percentage increase? Now again, you first need to find that increase. That's very important, that we first need to find the profit or loss or the increase here. And what is that in? So it's 1.5 on the birth weight of the baby times 100 over 1. Right, the next question is number 3. Express 64 as a percentage of that one. So then it is just, so this is question 3 now, 64 centimeters. But what we realize here is there's different units. It's centimeters and meters that we are dealing with. Will then be the 64 over. There's 100 centimeters in a meter, so it will be 320 times 100 over 1. And what is then the answer? 80%. Right, the next one, 115%. We can that, you know, when they sell cars or whatever they make this, it might be more than 100 that we have. So 115% of 80, 92 centimeters. It's important that we work with units, that we write down those units every time. Right, then number 5, from here on it's mixed exercise now. The price of a book is 65. Malan is given a discount of 15%. Work out his discount. So this is like yesterday's homework that we have. So it's then 15% of the 65. And then we'll have to subtract it, isn't it? The final answer? Oh, they say workout discount. So you're right, 9.75. Buys a radio for 100 and sells it for 80. Calculate the percentage loss. So first, this is the ones that we spoke about. Now, first you have to get the loss. So it's 20 over 100 on the original. So 20 out of 100, the original one. And you are right, the answer is then 20%. 20%. Okay, then number 7. In an election, 2,800 people voted. A lot of them were spoiled. So what is that one then? It's then 0.5 over 100. You can work with it like that. Or you can change it then to 5 over 1,000. But as I said, you're not going to write papers without calculators anymore. That's what we would have done then, but you can use your calculators. And then this is of the 2,800 voters. So how many are spoiled? 14. Question 8. Dorcas buys 24 cans of orange drink for 120 to sell in her shop. She sells all the cans at 6.5 each. Work out her total profit. Now here you'll have to first find one can, isn't it? She buys them and then sells them. So it's first 120 divide by 24 to find out the price of one can. Okay, so that's what she buys it for. Now she sells it at 650. So what is the profit that she makes? 150. So then it is the 150 times the 24 cans, which will give us her profit. The profit is then 36. The profit is then $36. That's the first question. And then they say a percentage profit. So it's then the 36 over what? What was the original amount? The 120 times 100 over 1. 30%. Now, this exercise was now a nice exercise with actually easy grade 8 and 9 questions, which we should get right. When we come down to the next exercise, finding original quantity, this is usually a much more difficult concept for learners to understand. So I would like you to pay very careful attention now here. And I'm going to buy a pizza for you. Oh, only one piece? Okay, and let's say when I get the bill, it's $2,000 that I have to pay. But the question is now, this $2,000 includes 15%. It includes now the $2,000, includes now 15% tax. And now the question is, what was the original bill before the tax? You cannot say that this is 15% of 2,000 because it was 15% of something else. It's 15% of something we don't know. So what we do in a case like this is we start off with 100%. We work with 100%. If it is a sale or tax, we're going to add this. So you start with 100%, and there was now an increase of 15% on this one. So I'm going to say that 115% is equal to that 2,000. And there's only one way to do these sums. I really want you to look on the board. This is when they ask the original cost. So what we do then is we reciprocal this one. It's then 100 over 115 of 2,000. Please press your calculators quickly. Let's see what it is. 1739.13. And if you calculate now the 15% on this one, then you can double check that you get that answer back. So original quantities, we equate it and we reciprocal it. That's how we do this. You cannot do it in another way. You equate it and you reciprocal it. Now in your workbooks, I would like you now to write original quantity. Okay, so this is now, try now 9 that we are looking at now. Try now 9. I'm going to do the first one or two first with you. 20% of a number is 17. Find the number. 20% of a number is 17. Now, I find it the best to write it like this, that 20% is 17. 20% is 17. To find the original one, we reciprocal this one. 100 over 20 of 17. And then you can get the original number. But because it must become more. It must become more. You start with 100% and you add that every time. You add the 100%. So the original number was 85. Look, we're trying to find the original quantity. So 20% of a number is 17. Find the original number, which is 85. Okay, because this is not like a sale or a tax or so. It's just 20% is that one. Right, now number 2. Yeah, I've seen. In a box, 15% of the balls are red. If there are 54 red balls, find the number of balls in the box. So again, you want to find that original quantity. So 15% is 54. So 100 over 15 of that 54, it's about this reciprocal that we are doing here. Here is not an additional thing like the tax or the sale. It's just first that you have to find the original quantity. And what would that be? 360. And you can see it's then much more. Okay, so let's finish marking then. Try now 9, finding those original quantities. So number 3 is then, in a class, 30% of the students wear glasses. So we reciprocate 100 over 30 of the, how many students? 48. So your answer is 160. Number 4, 70%. So that's then 100 over 70 times 35, 50. We're getting values here, not percentages now. 5, 45%, 100 over 45 of the 135 is 300 girls. 100 over 65 of the 52 questions, 80 questions. Question 7, 100. So this time it will get less. Can you see? Of 49. So now your original quantity will be less. 28. Can you see? There's a decrease there. And the last one then, number 8, 45% are women. There are 72. Find the total. So it's again 100 over 45. Of the 70, 160, this is A's answer, and then B's answer is the total number of male ones, so you just subtract it now, 88. Or you can calculate 55%, then you'll get the same answer. Now, when we come now to try now 10, this is now where we're going to add it. We're going to start with 100%, and then we add it. And the next step would be to reciprocate. Okay, try now 10, page 15. Right, I'm going to do the first one together with you, and then we're going, as I say, these are questions that are very, very poorly answered. So we really want to look at them here. A second-hand car is sold. So this is a decrease for a loss of 8%. Work out the original purchase price of the car. So I start with 100%. Now it's a loss. So I subtract it. Always start with 100. It's a loss. So I subtract the 8, which makes it 92. So I'm going to say that 92% is equal to the 64,400. And then I reciprocate. That's where it will now be that the first one is more. That's exactly the thing that you don't know. It was 8% on something we don't know, and we need to find that value. So this is how you're going to do it. You start with 100%. It was a cell, so now it's 92%. And then I reciprocate it. Let's get the answer, then you can see that it will be more. Can you see now it's automatically more? So we're marking our homework, and that was try now 16 and 17 that we're going to mark now here. Very easy. This was about fractions. The first one, 1 and 3, 8, A, plus 2 and 5, 6. So you've been doing this since grade 5. This shouldn't be a problem. But don't do it on the calculator, because what we do is we say in brackets, they show your working, or give it as a fraction. So then you can't just do it on the calculator. You have to go through the steps. So what we usually do here is to add the whole numbers. Then you find the LCM of the fractions, which is then 24. So this one, 8 divides into 24 3 times. So that one must also be 3 times bigger. That's the 9. 6 divides into 24 4 times, and then I also enlarge that one, so plus 20. So then we have 3 and 29 over 24, and you can see that here is a whole number included in this one, which makes it 4 and 5 over 24. You should really have no problem with this. This should be very easy. Okay, so you first change these two into improper fraction. Yeah, that's fine. You can do it like that. Do as you've learned. Do as if you don't try to change now the method here. So the next one is 3/8 minus 1 2/3. Perhaps here it will be a good thing to do it, because here is no whole number here to subtract it from. So we have 3/8, and this is then 5 over 3. Now we find the LCM, and the LCM of 8 and 3 is 24. So this one is 3 times bigger, this one also 3 times bigger, this one is 8 times bigger, so this is then minus 40 there. And then what is 9 minus 40? Negative 31. So the answer is then negative 31 over 24, which can simplify further, isn't it? To 1 and 7. So negative 1 and 7/24. Negative 1 and 7/24. Right, question C. 1/8 times negative 2/3. 1/8 times negative 2/3. So this is multiplication. Remember, for addition, it's the LCM. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do fractions with algebra. You're not going to get these easy fractions anymore. We're going to combine it with algebra. So we're looking at the basic steps, but that's what we're heading at in here. So here I can cancel the 2 divides into the 8 4 times, and then you multiply your numerators and your denominators. So this is negative, because a positive times a negative is a negative. 1 over 12. That's your answer there. 1.5 divide by 3 3/4. So, like the above one, you're going to change it to improper fractions. So it's 2 plus 1, which is 3 over 2. And this is then 12 plus 3, which is 15. But because we divide, we reciprocate it, isn't it? So it is 4 over 15. 4 over 15. And now we can cancel easily. So the 3 divides into the 15 5 times, and the 2 in the 4 twice. And the answer is then 2 over. Right, try now 17. Try now 17. Try now 17. Now, this is what we spoke about BODMAS, isn't it? And you can just do this with your calculator. So the first one will be bracket 7 times 3.1, close the bracket, minus brackets 5 times 2.2, close the bracket. Okay, right, let's start here with you. What is the first one's answer? 10.7. Okay, the second one, number B, same thing here. What should you do first according to BODMAS? 3 times 2. Okay, so what is the answer? 18. If you don't get the correct answer, you didn't follow BODMAS. Okay, the next one, number C, 36. Number D, there as well, you'll multiply 3.2 times 5 is equal to minus, and then you need to use those brackets there, 13.6. So again, if your answer is wrong, you're not using enough brackets there. Number E, again, BODMAS, so we'll first have to do the multiplication and then subtract it from 1. So what is it? Yeah, but I actually don't want you to do it as decimals. You can mark it correct now, but as I say in the exam, they're going to say, show your working. So let's look a little bit at number F. Now it says 1 1/4 divide by 2/3 minus 1 1/3. So BODMAS, this is the important thing that we're looking here. Just explaining if there are some of you are struggling here. So this one will be 15/8 minus that 1 1/3. So you can either change this one also now to an improper one, or you change this one to a whole number, 13/34. 13/24, but it should be very easy for you. You shouldn't struggle with these sums. Right, the next one is number G. And G says then 1/3 minus 1 1/2 times 1/4. So again, this is what we should do first. First, that multiplication. So this is 1/3 minus 3/2 times 1/4, which is then 1/3 minus 3/8. And then the LCM is 24. So it is then 8 minus 9. So the answer is negative 1/24. Negative 1/2. So the next one says negative 1/2. Again, brackets. Even if you do it with a calculator, you'll have to use those extra brackets. I'm showing you now the method when we don't use calculators. But the extra brackets is very important here. So that means there it's going to be negative 3/16. And here it will be negative 4 minus 3, which is what? Look here, it's plus here. Right, let's look at this one. It's plus, so it will then actually be negative 4 plus 3, yes, which is negative 1/8. And now if we divide, we times with the reciprocal, so times negative 8/7, and this is then positive 1/7.
Shoprite has always been here for you, and our promise to bring you low prices on what you need most will never change. Get an essential food hamper that includes Sugar King white sugar, Top Score instant porridge, Top Score maize meal, Rice King parboiled rice, Bakery brown or white bread, Right Brand sunflower oil, Clover Numel dairy blend, Polana spaghetti, Romy low-fat spread, and Imana regular soup. All 10 for just $110. Only at ShopRite. One stop, one safer shop.
Accommodation is the ability of the eye to focus on distant and near objects.
And I bring it in contact with the electroscope. What you must keep in mind is positive charge can't move. It is the negative charge that
So
moves.
the first one, EF, is then going to be 0 minus negative 2 over 4 minus negative 4. Look at my signs. If you go wrong there, if you don't substitute in brackets, you're definitely going to get wrong answers. So today we're looking at estimation. So on the one hand, it's going to be estimate values. Rounding off, it's the same thing. So the idea is, I always do it. When I go in the shop and I buy things, then I round the numbers up or down. And then I estimate what I'm going to pay when I get to the till. So I always play this game with myself to see if I'm correct, if I can get the idea of what I'm going to pay there. So this is what estimation is about. And we have two kinds of estimation and rounding. And the one is to decimal places. And the second one is what we call significant figures. Now, decimal places, you all know, is after the decimal point. We don't use commas. Remember, commas, Cambridge uses a decimal point. And significant figures work then from the left. You count them from the left. But zeros to the left doesn't count. And that's where we often gets a mistake on that one. So I'm just going to give you a few examples. You don't need to write this all down. So for instance, if I have the number 2.5698, if we just look at this one, if I say to 3 decimal places here, then that is the position where you have 3 decimal places after the point. And the question is now, will the 8 influence the 9? Only that 1 there. Now, because we have a 9 there, it will obviously influence it further. So it is then 2.570. And I need to put that 0 there because they said 3 decimal places. If I round this one off to, you don't need to write this down, to 2 decimal places, that's it. Will the 9 influence that one? Yes. So then it is 2.57. 2.57. Okay. And if I say this is then 2, and if I say to 1 decimal place is here, will the 7 influence the 5? Yes. So it is then 2.6. Now significant figures work from the left. So if I have 7586, and we say to the first decimal place, they are a significant figure. This is your most, they also call it your most significant figure. And now the question is, will the 5 influence the 7? Yes, but I must keep the place value because remember the point is actually there. It's not 8, it's 8,000, the answer. So if I look at 2 significant figures here, then yes, the 8 will influence it, so then it is 7600, keeping the place value. If I look there at 3 significant figures, it will be 7590, keeping the place value every time. Say 0.006. What is your first significant figure? The 6. I ignore the numbers in the front. They don't count. Then you count it. Then you count it. But if it's in the front, that's what we ignore. Okay. Yeah, well, depending on the question, if they say to one significant figure, it will be 0.006. Okay, open your textbooks now on page 23. Page 23. So there you will look at place values. People, this is something you did since grade 1 or 2. You started with place values and values there and rounding. This is what we have on page 23. Now I want us to try now 19 orally. We're going to do it orally to make sure we understand this. Because grade 10s, your question paper is going to say on the front page, round off to 3 significant figures, if it's not exact. And if you don't adhere to that, you're going to lose marks. I've seen learners losing 8 marks on a paper because of rounding. So we're going to be very strict on that from here on now. Right, so page 23, try now 19, number A. Right, I'm going to start there with you. What is the first one? But I want you to follow, all of you. This is now where we come to the new lesson. You can just write this in your workbooks. Limits of accuracy. And that's why we did the revision exercise. Okay, now limits of accuracy is that maximum error that we're talking about. So you're always going to have a maximum error. And as we said now, you have to write this down in your book. So if it's to the nearest 1,000, it will be plus or minus 500. That is that maximum error that you can make. For the nearest 100, it's plus or minus 50. For the nearest 10, it's plus or minus 5. And then to the nearest 1 centimeter, it's plus or minus 0.5. That is my maximum error I can make. Now we're talking about the lower and the upper bound. The lower and the upper bounds. So this is new work now here. The lower and the upper bound. So that means when I measure with my ruler to the nearest centimeter, I make that mistake of plus or minus 0.5. And then you add it or you subtract it. So that's how we're going to get those lower and upper bounds. And now I want you to add something here. We will do it a little bit later on. We say if we add or multiply, it's going to be lower, lower, upper, upper. And if we subtract or divide, it's going to be lower, upper, upper, lower. Just write it down. When we get to that, you'll understand what we are going to do. Okay, so now we're going to go in our books. Try now 20. Page 24, and today's date is the 27th. Okay, now I'll do the first ones together with you so that you can see how I would like you to write it out. The radius of a circular pond is 2,200 centimeters to the nearest 100 centimeters. 2,200 centimeters. Now, if I say to the nearest 100, what is my maximum error? So then I'm going to write it like this. It's going to be plus or minus 50. That is your maximum error. Now, the question is, what is your lower and your upper bound? Now, I don't know. It's just easier for me first to do this one. So it's 2,250, and this one will be 2,150. That is my lower and my upper bound. Okay, question 2. These are questions that we get in grade 12, so pay attention. The length of a rope is 50 centimeters to the nearest centimeter. So 57 centimeters to the nearest centimeter, what will be the maximum error now? 0.5. Yes, plus or minus 0.5. So my upper and my lower bound is then 57.5 and 56.5. Now at question 2, they have another way of writing it. You will see there. So we start with the smallest one. 56.5 is less than the length Look, that's the way they ask it there. Is less and equal and less than to 57.5. So often in the exam they will ask the question like this, that you'll have to put it in that like an inequality. Right, now we look at the third one. The length of a stick is 2.3 meters to the nearest 20 centimeters. This time it's different. Find the lower and upper bound. Now if it is 2.3, what would be the half of 20 centimeters? Okay, but now what is the problem here? We're working in meters and centimeters. So what we're going to do is we're going to change these meters first to centimeters. Work everything with your centimeters. You can't work with different ones. If I say to the nearest 20 centimeter, what is that maximum error that we make? Yes, so it's plus or minus 10. So that means your upper and lower bound is 240 and 220. So to write it in this form, it will be 220 is less than equal than x is less than 240. You want to put it back to meters, you can, depending on what the question say. We can do that, and then it will be 2.2 is less than equal than x is less than 2.4. If you want to put it back in meters, yes. Okay, her question is now, why do I use different symbols here? Why do I use there less and equal and there less than? If this one was also and equal to, it should actually go to the next one over. So that's why we use less than here, because it means it's not actually including that number. Otherwise, it goes to a next group. So it's always less than equal and less than. It will always look like this. The inequality will also always look like this. Still looking at those limits of accuracy. Now I want you to look on page 25. We were busy there, and I really want you to look at those, because then you will understand it better when we continue from there on. Right, especially the next one, 4.3 to 1 decimal place. Now if I have 4.3 to 1 decimal place, what is half of 1 decimal place? It's plus or minus 0.05. Can you see? So now the upper and the lower becomes 4.35 and 4.25. I add and subtract that maximum error that you make. I add and subtract that every time. Right. Let's look at the following one. 1.41 to 2 decimal places. So now your maximum error is 0.005. Look at the next one, to 3 decimal places, 0.0005. To 3 significant figures, 0.0005. Correct, to 3 significant figures, 0.005. To 3 significant figures, in a case like that, 0.05. 295 is then 0.5. So this is what's extremely important now, what we're going to use. Okay, now question 21 says, each of the following numbers is expressed to the nearest whole number. Give the upper and lower limits of each one here. Right, then the next one. So let's do this exercise orally, and then we'll do the next one in the books again. So give the upper and lower bounds, and then give it as an inequality. That means this is what we want. We want to write it like this, inequality. So we're going to do this orally. So the first one is 5 to the nearest whole number means it will be plus or minus 0.5. So your upper bound is 5.5 and your lower bound is 4.5. And to give it in an equality, it will be less than equal and less than 5.5. That's the inequality that we want if we ask that. Now the next one is 82. Or they ask you what is the range with which it lies. This is the range there. To the nearest whole number, what will this one be? 1 to 1 is plus or minus 0.5. People, you use your calculator and you say 1 divided by 2. And then I find the upper and lower bounds to be 82.5 and 81.5, and your inequality will be 81.5 is less than equal than x. Right, then the next one, 154. What is the maximum error this time? Okay, and there will be 154.5, 153.5. I add and subtract that every time. Okay, so let's mark then this exercise. The first one, this is now number 2, and it was 2.8. Because they say to one decimal place, the maximum error is plus or minus 0.05. So now it will be 2.85 and 2.75. Okay, but I've checked. Most of you got that now right there. And then they also say write it as an inequality. So it's then 2.75 is less than equal than x is less than 2.85. 2.85. Right, number B. 17.6. So it will again be plus or minus 0.05. So the upper and the lower bound is 17.65 and 17.55. So your inequality 17.55 is less than equal than x is less than 17.65. Right, number C. 1. So one decimal place is still plus or minus 0.05. 0.05. So the upper bound is 1.05. And what is the other one? 0.95. So the lower limit, the lower bound is 0.95. It's less than equal than legs is less than 0.05 there. So all of these questions is to one decimal place, which means for all of them we're going to say 0.05. 0.1 divide by 2, you can do it on your calculator, is 0.05. Yeah, that's what they say there. It's for all the sums the same. And then what I do is I add this to the number and I subtract it from the number. So that's how you get your line then there. Number D. D says 10. Yeah, this is now also a nice one, but it's still to one decimal place. So it will still be plus or minus 0.05. It's that one decimal place while we add that. So this one becomes 10.05, 9.95. I find it easier to first get that one and then just subtract it from this side. Then it's easier to get this one. So the inequality is now 9.95 is less than equal than x is less than 10.05. Do you have it correct? Grade 10s. The next one, E is 0.7 plus or minus 0.05. In 0.75, I add and I subtract 0.65. So 0.65 is less than equal than x is less than 0.75. And then the last one here, number F. I hope by now that you are getting them right. It's negative 0.2. Now if this is negative 0.2 and it's still to the nearest one decimal place, okay, so I will still add or subtract that 0.05. Then you go back to this one. So it is negative negative 0.15 and is 0.25. Okay, which one is now the smallest one? Yeah, look at this one. Be careful here. This is the smallest one. Is less than equal than x is less than negative 0.15. So now this is the smallest number. Because it's a negative number, we should look at that.
Namibia is known for its beautiful wide open landscapes. However, these deserted spaces also pose numerous educational challenges in our country's rural areas. Because of this, many learners are denied access to proper teaching and learning. At EduVision, we believe that education is the starting point to a journey of endless possibilities.
Soon and very soon, we are going to see e-learning. Soon and very soon, we are going to see.
The plan for EduVision was to identify areas in Namibia that do not have the proper learning resources, a working school or an education center.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, we are going to see e-learning. No more dieting, no more.
My name is Philip Smith. I'm the principal of Educate Academy in Otjiwarongo. The project EduVision, the e-learning program, started in 2017. With a project like this, obviously telecommunication, internet connection is a major thing that needs to be sorted out, a logistical challenge. And the fact that we chose Chunkwe Secondary School as the first school didn't make it easier for ourselves. It's very far from Otjiwarongo, it's far from Windhoek. So the internet connection was a big challenge first of all. So with the help of the telecommunications expert Paratus, they made this dream come true with internet connections via Windhoek, Otjiwarongo to Chunkwe and then back, the whole process. Like I said, it's interactive whiteboard, so the internet speed, capacity of the connectivity and so forth plays a major role. And so Paratus made this dream come true, and they were on board from the first moment. So very grateful for Paratus.
The project offers teaching assistance of a high standard in science to rural secondary schools within the learner's own community by means of e-learning. This entails the following: live transmissions of lessons from an equipped teacher in a different location to the students in rural areas, students using their own cell phone, tablet or computer to recall each lesson, and interactive lessons as well as the use of a smartboard as a teaching aid.
So if you look ahead at the next 3 years, we get information from the Ministry of Education. The future is very bright. So I think there's a lot of schools who can benefit from this program. Like I mentioned before, finances obviously plays a major role in a project like this. So we're very thankful for all the sponsors that are on board and still on board after almost 3 years of the project. So as long as people from the private sector can get involved, I think we can reach many schools in Namibia, because this project made a good start now. We're already seeing some positive results, and we can just call on all the private sector corporate sponsors to come on board and join in this very, very positive project.
It is EduVision's goal to prepare and guide learners in order to make the modern world they are living in accessible to all.
My name is Magdalena Neoma. I'm 18 years old and I'm doing my first year at UNAM Commando campus, and I completed my grade 12 at Chunkwe Senior Secondary School. I'm doing education, so I'm gonna teach at Chunkwe Secondary School because there, I really need to go there and motivate the learners. Eduvision helped me a lot. It assisted us in teaching for mathematics, physical science, and biology. And it also, we get to exchange learning from other schools like Educate, whereby they teach us, and that's the most thing that we benefited from. Studying without Eduvision was so challenging, and when Eduvision was introduced at our school, things become more easier. The time where Eduvision was not introduced, we were so slow in learning, and when Eduvision introduced at our school, my learning speed increases. Things were kind of boring, and when Eduvision came, my mind changed the way I think. I'm really grateful for what Eduvision gave us. Our class of 2019 was the first group to make it, to perform very well at Tsonkwe Senior Secondary School. So it should keep up the spirit. We need that. It should continue to support us.
Eduvision aspires to ensure that equal opportunity is offered to every learner in rural areas to tap into his or her own potential while working in an environment which views disadvantages not as obstacles but as unique attributes that can be regarded as powerful assets when given the proper opportunity. At Eduvision, we believe that dreams are the foundation of knowledge and hope always triumphs over experience.
No more problems. Everything is proper.
We always love to hear from you. Send us your views, comments, and videos with your name and town to the One Africa TV's WhatsApp on 081 200 6659 or send an SMS to 555. One Africa TV, it just gets better. Share with us on #LearnOn1. Tell us what you're learning and where you're learning it from. Send us your name and town to the One Africa TV's WhatsApp on 081 200 6659 or send an SMS to 555. One Africa TV, it just gets better.
When you're saying things that degrade women, for me, number one, I am not there, because that is basically what I don't believe in. I don't stand for things that degrade women.
What do you think we can add? What can we put in the basket? First of all, let's put Blossom back in the basket.
Look at the person like, man, let's do a song.
Let's do something.
Just
let's
like
collaborate.
Let's collaborate.
Just Africans were claiming us.
Yes, exactly. To the rest of the world, they belong to us. Namibia, Baba, Namibia.
I'll help you carry on.
Creating music and putting some stuff out for the people who've been supporting me, that's definitely something that's next on my list.
The mighty Zambezi River, the longest east-flowing river in Africa, a river that flows through 6 countries, home to a plethora of wild species of fauna and flora, a lifeline for many people whose livelihoods are dependent on the abundance the river brings. Globally, communities who live along rivers rely on these rivers to survive. Communities living along the Zambezi call it the river of life, bringing water for their crops and fish as their main protein source. In Namibia, a country situated in sub-Saharan Africa, the Zambezi River sits at the heart of CAZA, the Kavango-Zambezi Trans-Frontier Conservation Area, which is one of the greatest conservation areas on Earth, a stronghold for very many of our most iconic wildlife.
I'm right now where the river forms the border between Namibia and Zambia. This enormous water body provides sustenance to a wide array of wildlife, bird and fish species. It's also a lifeline for human beings.
The same communities are the people also who are doing the illegal activities.
The price of fishing has gone up because fish has become scarce.
The more they finish us, the more our life gets harder and harder.
These days, it is very rare to get a big bream unless in those protected areas.
A small group of community members, together with non-governmental organizations like Namibian Nature Foundation, are fighting back.
We have to start thinking out of the box, to be honest, because what's going to happen is going to be out of this box that we haven't seen before.
By creating protected areas, monitoring and patrolling, fish stocks have a chance at recovery. These are the stories of the people fighting for the continued existence of their communities. These are the last defenders.
Struggling with no food, no what. But we didn't stop. If I don't do it, our young children, they'll never know the fish.
News just in. Brace yourselves as One Africa TV's Today on One, our local current affairs lifestyle program, brings you a newly revamped look and feel for the nation at large.
You talk, we listen.
The way they operate, they have to be different. Because we are losing lives here.
With over 1 million impressions on posts, we bring you
Community Voices,
Sport, Consumer Watch,
social media commentary,
the weather, and so much more.
Today on One, always there.
Okay.
Standing in your presence alone, I've come to know more